Hey everyone, I hope you all are doing well. I know it has been a really long time since I last uploaded a video. I do apologize for that. Going forward, I would like to start uploading videos on a much more regular basis. I would like to significantly expand my online audience and my sphere of influence. I realize that will only happen if I start producing and uploading content on a regular basis. And there's really two main reasons for why I want to grow. Um, First of all, I want to do a better job of marketing myself and extending my sphere of influence online. Second of all, I genuinely feel like I have a lot of valuable information to share. I feel like I have information that could positively impact many people's lives. And if I'm just keeping my mouth shut, then um, that's not a good situation. It's like I could be changing lives for the better, but I'm not, like mainly due to laziness, and I don't want to be that guy. Um, that being said, I want to use this video to simply bring you up to speed with what I've been doing in 2018. I also want to just um, more or less ramble about some things that have been going through my head, some things that I've been thinking about, and hopefully you find the conversation interesting. Before I get into all of that, I would like to just give a brief overview of who I am and what I do. So my name is Justin Clifton. I'm a professional digital marketer. All of my work is remote. So my main area of expertise is Google AdWords, which is Google's online advertising platform. So I primarily work for companies in the first world, predominantly the US, and I spend most of my time in low cost of living countries. And so that's really the crux of my business model. I'm working for companies in countries with relatively high wages, and I'm living in countries where the wages are much lower. For that reason, it's really easy for me to, well, make good money and also work minimal hours. I feel like it's a really, really good system, and I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and I've been loving it. Um, I just love the freedom and the flexibility, being able to work from wherever I happen to be, and also being able to work whenever I want to. It's not like I have to work 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's just really, really liberating to be able to work anywhere in the world where you have a good internet connection. And I will say that like those locations are rapidly increasing throughout the world, especially with the rise of 4G. Um, like there's a lot of places, like year by year, the internet is getting better all around the world. Um, well, in most places, and like the scope of that internet connectivity is continually increasing, and that just means, hey, more places where I could potentially settle down and get some work done. So, that being said, I would like to tell you about what I've been up to in 2018. So, I've always been a really big traveler, and prior to 2018, I was doing a lot of traveling in Latin America. So in 2017, I actually spent a lot of time in Mexico. I spent about half of the year there, and I really loved it. And but then in 2018, I said, you know what? This needs to be the year that I travel around the world. So I remember being in Mexico. I went on my laptop and I was just looking at some flights, and I found a really great deal from San Francisco to Ho Chi Minh City, and that really sealed the deal for me. I said, okay, that's a great start to a trip around the world. So I was in the US for the holidays, I was in Texas for Christmas, and I was in California for New Year's. And then I traveled to um, Vietnam immediately after New Year's. And so that's how 2018 began for me. I was in Vietnam for a while, then I went to Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, India, Egypt, and now I'm coming to you from Romania. And speaking of great internet or improving internet around the world, the internet here in Romania is phenomenal. It's actually ranked number 5 in the world, better than the US. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would not expect that. I did not expect that until I started doing some research on Romania, and I realized that the internet here is actually blazing fast. Um, so there are really two main purposes for my trip around the world. Um, the first main purpose is just my general curiosity. I'm a very curious person, and I like to go explore places, good or bad. Um, I'm not just sticking to like the the posh locations in the world. Um, Maybe it's a country like India or a country like Nicaragua. Like there's very, very extreme poverty in those countries, and it's not like I'm just sticking to the rich parts of town. Um, I, Whenever I go to a country, I like to immerse myself in the country and learn about the culture, talk to people, from all classes, and just try to get a good overall picture of the country and the culture. Um, so yeah, curiosity is really, really huge. I'm just very, very curious, and I want to, go explore countries, good or bad. Um, I just love learning about the world and learning more about our collective humanity. And the second reason is business. Like I said, I spend most of my time in low cost of living countries, and so I'm always looking for great countries where I can, well, A, live there cheaply, and B, potentially invest in the country. So whether it be real estate, um, or whether it be, uh, say, like setting up my own business in the country, or even hiring people in the country, I feel like there's a lot of really, really great investment opportunities in low cost of living countries. And in a lot of these low cost of living countries, they actually want you and your money. Um, it's not like in some other countries around the world where they've already got plenty of money and plenty of investors. So the deals for like lower capital investors aren't exactly excellent. Um, so what I would say is in most places around the world, you have a correlation between quality of life and cost of living. So typically, when the quality of life is high, the cost of living is high. So you can think of a place like Stockholm in Sweden. The quality of life is very, very high, but the cost of living is absurd, and it's actually extremely difficult to even find an apartment in downtown Stockholm, from what I've heard. I haven't been there, haven't been on the ground to assess that, but I've heard that from multiple sources. Um, and you have other places where the quality of life is extremely low and the cost of living is also extremely low. So think about like Port-au-Prince in Haiti. Sure, it's extremely cheap there, but you wouldn't really want to live there, um, especially if you're coming from a first world country. There's just certain services and amenities that you're used to that you don't want to give up, regardless of how cheap it might be. Um, so In my travels, I have really been trying to identify places that have a high quality of life and a low cost of living, relatively speaking. So, relatively high quality of life, relatively low cost of living. And in my experience, there are three main regions in the world where you can find that. You can find that in certain countries in Latin America, not Venezuela at the moment, in case you were wondering, um, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Europe. So I have extensively traveled throughout Latin America and Southeast Asia. This is my first time here in Eastern Europe, so I have been here in Bucharest for a few weeks. I've actually been more or less stuck here because I've been waiting on a new passport. I had to apply for a new passport at the embassy here because my old passport ran out of pages. Um, but I got a call from them a few days ago, and they said, "Yeah, your new passport is ready to be picked up." So, but I'm actually going to be here for a few more weeks. Then I'm going to be traveling around the Balkans, just trying to get a feel for this region. And uh, so, yeah, those are the two main purposes for my travels. And like I said, uh, I've always been a big traveler, and this trip around the world, this is what I've decided to dedicate this year to. It's like last year I dedicated the year to like thoroughly exploring Mexico. Um, and the main reason for that is it's really close to home, and it's a, you know, high, in certain parts of the country, high quality of life, low cost of living. So it's a very, very good option for somebody like me coming from Texas. Um, and all of that being said, um, well, hang on. I'm gonna take a sip of green tea here. Oh yeah, that's good. Good green tea. Um, so what I would like to talk about at this point is how I'm just really bewildered by the fact that there are so many people in the world that are going from uh, the third world to the first world. I mean, think about the refugee crisis. Think about the immigration crisis. Um, the overall trend is people going from low cost of living countries to high cost of living countries. People want to get a physical job um, in a high cost of living country because when the cost of living is higher, the wages are higher. And if you're only saving a certain percentage of, like, let's say you're saving 20% of your income every month, um, well, if your wage is higher to begin with, so it's like obviously 20% of a higher wage is simply more money, and that means more money for you to invest in some other country or send back home to friends and family. Um, so it's like that's economics is a big reason for a lot of the immigration going on in the world today. Of course, another major factor is security. Um, and don't get me wrong, there are people that are seeking asylum and they're genuinely seeking asylum, like they're coming from places that simply aren't safe. But what I find a bit bewildering is how there aren't more people in the first world and in the third world that are trying to do something like me. And what I mean by that is there aren't more people that are trying to remotely get work from the US or from the UK or from Australia, stay put. Or if you're from one of those first world countries, move to a low cost of living country and simply do work that way. It economically speaking, it's so much easier. it's even better than um, being, say, in the U.S. with the U.S. job, because I have like U.S. work, but I'm not even living in the United States, so I'm not dealing with the relatively high costs of living in the U.S. And I don't have to own a car, and there's a lot of expenses associated with that. I don't have to rent an expensive apartment in New York City or Chicago or LA. Um, so basically, what I'm getting at is uh, whenever you are in a specific place and you have a local job, it unless it's an extraordinarily good job, it's really hard to get ahead economically, simply because of economics. And when the wages are high in a particular area, the cost of living is going to be high as well. And I feel like what I'm doing makes a lot of sense from an economical point of view, and I'm just bewildered by the fact that more people aren't doing it. And I think that a big reason is people think that it's very, very difficult to get started. And I'm not saying it's easy to get started, but it's not nearly as difficult as people envision it to be. Um, so, yeah, I think I've really touched on a lot of interesting points in this video, and I'd be curious to see what you all have to say. Um, can anybody help me out here? Can anybody explain why there isn't more of a rise in people that are looking for remote work in the world? Obviously, that like the number of remote workers are increasing in the world. I'm just a bit surprised by the fact that it's not catching on more quickly and more significantly. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to sign off. I don't want this video to get too long, but I hope this is just some interesting food for thought. And like I said, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on some of these topics. Alright, so I will catch you on the flip side.